Okay, the abortion clinic supposed to shut down this morning. And the conference. Is that a news conference there?
Pardon me?
Is there a news conference?
Yeah, I heard about a press conference. I have no idea what's going on though.
I think it's inside. I'm not sure who they're admitting, but...
Oh yeah, I don't think they'll admit me, but
No.
anyhow, I'll give it a shot.
Give it a try.
Hey, I've been the night before. News conference.
Who are you?
I'm a blogger in the city. My name is LeBlanc Charles.
Just hold on a second.
Just hold on.
Oh, yeah.
They're really our rock here, and their kindness and compassion have eased women through very difficult times. And also to our volunteers, many of which are here today, they are very passionate in the right to choose, and they exercise that passion in such a dedicated manner. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
420 will somehow be repealed before the end of the legislative sitting. Will things change for you?
I think...
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
I have to stand in this.
Please.
If they repeal it, well, it's a difficult question for me to answer. I don't know what that would mean here, and I don't know, if it would make a difference. I mean, women need to get their procedures covered, but in funded clinics throughout Canada, the province pays for the salaries of doctors, the salary of nurses, the salary of your tech staff and support staff, the rent of the building. So it's a bigger question, when we're talking about finances. So I can't really give an answer to that right now.
How do you expect the government to respond?
How do I expect the government to respond? I guess I expect them to respond in the same way they've responded for the last 20 years, which has been no response. We're fighting.
What's your message to the voters? This is an election year. It's a big issue.
Well, I think, I don't know. I'm going to ask you to step in here. I can't talk to the voters.
Well,
Hold on. Can we get
Send her, just
you
come in the
in
middle,
here?
please.
I'm being pushed out here.
oh, right.
Okay.
We have to swap positions.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
I want to block out some. The voting question is an interesting one because neither of the big parties has been supportive of access to reproductive health care in this province. Maybe part of the context of that has been that it was easy to get away with not taking a positive position on access to reproductive health because the clinic was here. The clinic not being here, not being available, will put, I would imagine, some pressure on government to rethink what was essentially an ideological position, not one that is grounded in solid public policy making. So I'm maybe moderately more optimistic than Simone about the possibility that the parties will actually start to rethink and reevaluate the position that they have been taking. And I certainly would expect that the voters of New Brunswick will keep an eye on what's happening because, as Simone was saying, the impact of the clinic's closing is not just on women accessing abortion, it is also women accessing information about reproductive health, accessing counseling and accessing both information about and accessing resources for contraception. So it's a larger picture that is going to have to be the subject of public debate.
Are the numbers of women seeking abortion, are they still very high, or are they leveling out? And I was wondering about the impact of pharmaceutical choices. Is that having any impact on women looking for abortions?
So the numbers of there's implicit in your question an assumption that abortion rates are high. Abortion rates are lower everywhere in the developed world than they were a few decades ago. They're certainly much lower in the wake of legalization than they were prior to that. And they have been lower over the last decade or so than they were before that. Pharmaceutical abortion, medical abortion as it's sometimes called, is as yet, I believe, Simone, correct me if I'm wrong, not authorized by Health Canada, so it has not had an impact on the abortion rate in this country, again, likely for ideological rather than for scientific reasons.
Would you expect sort of an underground abortion industry now to...
Well, that's certainly a fear, right? The experience, historical experience with situations where we didn't have access to safe, legal abortions has been that women get severely injured in an attempt to access abortion other ways. I would very much hope that government will look very seriously at avoiding taking us down that road. That would just be horrific beyond contemplation.
So why is the clinic closing now if it's been facing these issues for 20 years?
Because you have a finite amount of private funding. When you run out of that private funding, things end. And I think that's something that anybody who engages in volunteerism of any kind knows well, that volunteer organizations, not-for-profit sector organizations can deliver services to the point where they run out of funds and then they stop.
Can you tell
Is
me
the
how many
lawsuit,
women were
just
actually helped through this clinic on a yearly basis?
I think I'll let Simone speak
On a
to
yearly
that.
basis?
Pardon, I didn't hear the question.
How many women do you deal with on a yearly basis?
I'd say between 600 and 700 women on a yearly basis.
And that's from around the province?
Yes, that's from around the province.
Does that include
Absolutely.
PEI as
Yes,
well?
it does include PEI as well.
Can you just elaborate on what the PEI situation is, how many women you see come here from there?
Well, it ranges, and I'd say probably 10% of our overall stats would be women coming from PEI. When women from PEI can access a hospital abortion in Halifax, and the province will pay for that. But for some, it's just a barrier. And for the same reasons that it's a barrier here. They don't have a doctor. They have a doctor that's anti-choice. And they have to go to Halifax twice. So, you know, the women that are most hurt with all of this and with everything that's happening here today are those women that are disenfranchised. All right, that don't have good connections in the community. Those are the women that have difficulty getting into Moncton. And whenever we can facilitate that, we would facilitate that process for them. Because the the doctors that are doing procedures in the two New Brunswick hospitals are doing a good job. They're limited in what they can do.
Where is the status of the lawsuit? I assume now is discontinued, the legal case?
I
know it's sort of been up in the air for...
Switch positions again, I suppose. The lawsuit I'm assuming you're talking about is Dr. Morgentaler's lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Regulation 8420. That is indeed in at least abeyance and probably at an end. Because the province, rather than engaging with the question on the merits as to whether it was in fact constitutional to restrict access to abortion in this manner, chose to, not to put too technical a point on it, motion Dr. Morgentaler to death. And that's an unfortunate component of all of this, is that money that was already tight had to be diverted into initiating a lawsuit that the province fought on highly technical grounds. And quite frankly, all of us as taxpayers ought to be somewhat upset about that, because it was our taxpayers' money that was going into sorting out the substantive legal issue by diverting it into procedural wrangling.
Given that Dr. Morgentaler's argument there was that there wasn't a woman who felt a patient who felt comfortable coming forward herself. Is there any legal mechanism now to challenge that regulation without the clinic or Dr. Morgentaler doing it?
It's certainly more difficult. One intervening legal event is that the Supreme Court of Canada, in a recent decision, has indicated that the threshold for bringing public interest litigation is somewhat lower than it previously was. So it is conceivable that a public interest organization could bring or continue such a lawsuit, but many of the same difficulties apply. It's still a question of how do you fund such litigation? It is still a question of will the province raise all of the same threshold procedural opposition points again? Will you have to go back to the New Brunswick Court of Appeal or even the Supreme Court of Canada to even figure out whether whatever organization steps forward has standing to bring that suit? None of this is actually relevant to the question of whether the regulation is constitutional, but it may take quite a bit of financial effort before we get to the substantive issue, and that's been the problem all along, and that may continue to be the problem.
Do you think, given you said it was an ideological decision back 20 years ago, do you think that ideological perspective has changed?
That's very hard to know, because when you push an ideology for a long time, you create an environment in which people who are of the opposing view do not feel free to speak. It's always been somewhat hazardous in this province to speak about access to abortion without fear of public chastisement. And as long as we have politicians appear on the steps of the legislature protesting their own legislation, we are probably in a situation where we're going to be shamed into, or there's going to be an attempt to shame us into silence. And while that continues, ideology will continue because it doesn't allow reasoned policy debate to occur.
Simone, can I just ask you one question? You've been an advocate for many, many years. What does this mean to you?
It makes me very, very sad. And I guess I'm on the other end of the phone when women call. And you have to be here to really understand the depth of trauma that some of these women have to undergo. So it breaks my heart to have to do this. It absolutely does. And I'm not sure what women are going to do after we leave. I really have no idea. I can't answer that. But do I feel bad? Yeah, I feel very, very bad and very, very sad. It's not an announcement that I ever wanted to have to make. But the reality is reality. One thing I also do here is pay the bills. So I am very aware of how difficult it is. The two other Morgentaler clinics that are still operating in Canada are both publicly funded clinics. All right. And
sorry, where are they located?
In Ottawa. There's one in Ottawa. There's one in Toronto. The Morgentaler Clinic in Montreal is under new ownership, but they've retained the name the Morgentaler Clinic. But that clinic is also publicly funded. And I think the idea that, I think what bothers me the most about all of this is that it's the women of New Brunswick that already do not have a voice, that their silence has been complicit in all of this, and people have used their silence, right, as a means of just not moving this whole issue forward. It's the same for the women that have to come here every Tuesday and have to face our protesters from next door. Silence is a big part of this, and I feel sad for those women.
Do you think it's a victory of the pro-life people today?
I'm going to let you take that.
I don't believe so. I was asked earlier about the rate of abortions in the province, and the unfortunate part is that probably the majority of those abortions are a direct effect of so-called pro-life policies. Our abortion rates would be considerably lower if we had a free and sex-positive public discourse about human sexuality. They would be lower if we had good access to contraception. They would be lower if we had good, early, positive, liberal sexual health education in our schools starting much earlier than it presently does. All of those things are, however, part of a policy platform that the so-called pro-life movement has been objecting to. And those are the factors that contribute to Brunswick having a higher rate of abortion than is necessary. The majority of abortions are probably on that account. So if I were actually in favor of lowering the rate of abortion, I, as I'm assuming our friends from the next door here would be, then I think you ought not to celebrate what happened today, because all of those factors have just gotten worse.
After July, where would New Brunswick rank as far as abortion access in Canada?
Well, it's at the very bottom, and I mean, it's been not quite at the very bottom because PEI has kept us one level up from there, but we will now be at the same level. We will be worse than PEI because we also don't have reciprocal billing, right? So PEI was the worst because there was no local provider on the island, and continues to be no local provider on the island, but at least there's reciprocal billing if you go to the hospital in Halifax. We have extremely limited hospital access through Regulation 8420, inadequate, utterly inadequate access to those two hospitals. Not the fault of the providers in those hospitals, I hasten to add, but we will be at the very, very bottom.
Will you do anything legally?
It is very difficult to do anything legally about a situation of no service. What we can do legally is extraordinarily limited. I think this is a political question mostly at this point, and there needs to be some very serious engagement with our political leadership, but there also needs to be civic engagement about the question, and how we're going to take the lid off that and make people feel comfortable contributing to that discussion, I think, is going to be the challenge. And I would suggest that you all as media representatives have a big role to play in assisting us shaping a public discussion that is not a hate fest, but is actually an engagement with the issues.
Do you have any comment in French? Somebody? Do you speak French?
No, I'm sorry.
We can try. Could you spell your name and your title, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
My name is Eula Hughes, that's J-U-L-A, Hughes, H-U-G-H-E-S. I'm a law professor at the University of New Brunswick here
Sorry,
in Fredericton.
Could you repeat your name and title, please?
Okay. My name is Eula Hughes. I'm a professor at the University of New Brunswick Faculty of Law, and the name is spelled J-U-L-A, H-U-G-H-E-S.
And Simone, could you do the same? Say and spell your name and your title.
Please.
I'm manager of the Morgentaler Clinic in Fredericton. My name's Simone, S-I-M-O-N-E, and last name is Leibovich, L-E-I-B-O-V-I-T-C-H.
And this, did you say, sorry, the end of July or beginning?
The end of July.
End of July.
So what's going to happen to you after July?
Well, the issue isn't what's going to happen to, I'll be okay. The issue isn't what's going to happen to
Smallest
me.
nigga scrum I ever seen.
Pardon me?
Are you going to get somewhere else?
Well, I don't know
I'm
yet.
there.
I don't
I'm
know
on.
yet.
I'm leaving.
The fee now is 14 weeks and under is $700.
A lot of people, Kelly.
And
Ça va?
under 16 weeks is $850. So it's a lot of money for women to have to come up.
Did you have to increase that?
We've had to increase it. I've been here a few years and we've had to increase it 3 times. And that's just really to make ends meet here, to operate the clinic and keep things going.
And they say average of 600 to 700. Is that been static with years? Or is that
I think it fluctuates over the years, but I think it usually remains around that level, yes.
Is there a certain prevalence between certain ages among your clients?
Pardon me?
Is there like certain ages that you seem to see more?
Oh, I think it really ranges here at our clinic. I mean, we get very few young women, thankfully, and I don't think there's a demographic. Like, we get women here that are 47 years old as well as, women in their 20s.
Okay, because now you're trespassing. No, you're leaving now. You're walking now. Okay.
Why do you guys want to cause a scene? Okay, it's over.
Thank you.
It's over.
We're not
It's
causing a
over.
scene.
It's over. Yeah, it's cool. It's okay. I'm
Let's
leaving.
go.
Don't worry about it. Okay. I got what I wanted. There. Thank you.
Good. Okay.
Steve, want to have a coffee?
Everything else is moving forward.
That's right. Yeah. I'm not going to push everybody aside. Relax.
You're gonna walk and ask people to move politely.
Hey, Andy, do I have that much power here? They don't want me to film?
We let you film.
Do you work for Danby's? Yeah? Holy Jesus.
Can I meet you outside? I just want to say hello to a few friends.
We'll have coffee.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that they could get it medically.
I'm gone. Could have left in a good note. Okay, I got what I wanted.
Excellent. Hey, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, no, he was involved. Well, isn't that the case that is sort of ended up in limbo after his death? And I don't know what's happened, what the state of it is now.
No, there was talk of this happening when he passed.
So how do we feel?
Pretty shitty.
Shitty? Why?
So that's like basically can't happen.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Just that thing. I was inside, did the news conference, and then I didn't stop the video. So it's a part of history.
So my friends are all going to get
Silent? Nobody? Nobody? That's good.
Well, I mean, what is there to say, really?
Yeah, really. What was said inside? It's a beautiful day, though.
And you need your
That's right. Am I that important? What?
You're that obnoxious.
Obnoxious. My God. They wanted me out of there fast. Yeah, I'm going to take a few... I mean, it's nice, but... I'm going to take a few pictures here.